So I'm getting ready to change the oil in this 2017 Nissan Pathfinder. It has a 3.5 in it. This procedure should be the same from a 2013 Pathfinder all the way up to the current model year, which is right now it's 2020, the date of this video. This vehicle happens to take with this motor 0W20 weight oil. Double check your owner's manual just to make sure. It should take that motor weight 3.5 and it should take about 5 quarts of motor oil. So let's dive into this thing. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to unscrew the oil cap before you drain the oil out. This should be found right in the front right here. Kind of loosely place the cap back on so nothing falls down in there. And we'll get underneath and we'll loosen up that bolt. So the bolt for the oil pan, it should be around the passenger side. It'll be right over here. It's 14 millimeter. So you can set it up with either a socket or a ratchet. Let's crack it loose. So once you have it cracked loose, you should be able to take the rest of the bolt out by hand. And we're gonna let this drain out. It's good to drain the oil when the engine's a little warm. Be careful if the oil's hot, you don't want to burn yourself. When the engine's warm, it should flow right out pretty easily. Get all the oil out. So while you're changing the oil on your car, it's a good time to kind of look around underneath while you're under there. Check out, the ball joints. And the ball joints in this vehicle, there aren't any grease fittings, so you don't have to worry about greasing the ball joints. There's a lower ball joint right here. If you come around to the tie rod end, there isn't a grease fitting on the tie rod end, so they're not greasable. You don't have to worry about them. And it's a good time to check your tire pressures as well. Go around so your tire pressures are at the recommended tire pressure. You can find usually a sticker on the door jamb of the vehicle for the recommended tire pressure. And it's a good time to kind of walk around and check all that stuff out while you're changing the oil. So another thing you might want to check out is while you're into the vehicle, make sure that the vehicle's, if you're doing it in your driveway, that it's supported correctly and safely. If it's on a warm summer day and you're using jack stands and you're not using ramps, be careful that the jack stands don't, dig into your hot top or something like that, because it can happen. You don't want the vehicle to fall. So while you're under there, look around for leaks. Look at the transmission pan right here. This one's really dry. There's nothing leaking on it. Look for anything green, which would indicate, some kind of a antifreeze leak from the radiator or a hose or a water pump, something like that. This Nissan Pathfinder looks nice and dry under here, so we can't find anything going on. It's also a good time to kind of look down the vehicle to make sure that there's nothing rotted out in the exhaust or on your rocker panels and stuff like that. Kind of give the vehicle, once over to make sure that there's not something else that you can prevent from failing down the road. This truck looks pretty good. So, so in the back of the Pathfinder, how to check out the rear differential, there's a plug right here to fill it up. The fill plug is on the back right here. If you undo that, there's like a hole right here. You can kind of probably access it. It's an Allen screw. So you can check it and fill it right by that plug right there. To drain that out, there's a drain plug near the bottom right here. So that's how you would drain it out if you needed to redo the fluid and top it off, change the fluid out. What I'm going to do now is going to wipe the pan dry, replace the bolt in the oil pan here. And you want to inspect like the little seal on the copper. It's a copper seal. It wasn't moist around the oil pan, so you can reuse this one. Grab my ratchet. You just want to snug this up, make sure it's tight. You don't have to crank down on it, so you don't want to strip that thread. It should be fine, and wipe it down again. Now we can remove the oil filter. Behind this splash guard right here, so you should be able to just kind of pull it away. Get an oil filter wrench on it. And I should be able to loosen up the wrench. There goes the handle on my wrench. drain out a little. So I have, here's the old oil filter, here's the new one. I grabbed the recommended part. So you always want to compare and make sure that they're the same. They look to be the same. Also make sure that the old gasket comes off with the oil filter and it's not left on the engine block where the oil filter screws in, because that'll cause a leak if it is. So always double check that and make sure that that old gasket came with the oil filter. Happens once in a while. But so what we'll do is we'll put a little light coating of brand new oil on the seal to help to prevent it from sticking the next time we do the oil change. Just take a little bit of oil, you don't need a lot. All you need is like a little light coating on the gasket right there. Just coat it, and now we're gonna go over to the truck. I'm gonna put this back on. So make sure you screw it onto the housing and it catches onto the threads by hand.
Tony's got big muscles, so you won't have to use the wrench to tighten it up.
You want to make sure it's hand tight. You know, sometimes we give them a little bit of an eighth of a quarter turn with the wrench just to snug them up, but you don't need to crank down on these excessively. Right, Steve?
Yep.
So at this point in the video, you're going to want to add the 5 quarts of oil into the engine using a funnel. Yep. Now that we have added the oil in, we're going to stop the engine and check for oil leaks. All right, so just make sure that nothing's gushing out from underneath. You know, everything's tight. You know, there's not oil gushing out from the oil filter area or where that drain plug is. Everything looks okay from here. So we're going to check the oil level.
Go.
Okay, so now you want to check the oil level to make sure that it's at the correct level, the recommended level. So your dipstick should be around the front.
Oh, shit, huh?
So we pulled the dipstick out of the hole, and now Steve and I are having trouble finding the hole. So give me a minute, and we'll find the hole of the dipstick.
Very, very sad. Sounds very difficult.
Yeah. So the when you remove the dipstick, it's kind of hard to see where the hole is, but it's right down here, like kind of underneath the engine block a little bit. So when you're pulling it out, make sure you have an idea where it's coming out of. All right, so we're gonna pull this out, check the oil level, and put it back in. It's easy to lose sight of the thing. Right, Steve?
Yeah. Okay, so we're wiping it off. This is where our proper level should be, somewhere in between where my thumbnail is after you've changed the oil. So let's go put it back down.
Yeah, let's put that in one more time. We're kind of goofing around a little bit here. The old cars were so much easier, weren't they?
Shit. You have to wiggle the dipstick a little left and right to get it to fall down into the hole too.
Yeah, the thing is like jammed up and under the block a little bit. It's kind of, what a weird thing.
So our oil level now is right here at the tip of our fingernail. So it's on the full mark, so we are good.
All right. So while you're under the hood doing an oil change, you want to make sure that you're pretty much all set for between 5,000 and 7,500 miles. You know, we used the synthetic, we should be good for that. Always check your oil level periodically to make sure that you don't need to add a little bit. So we're going to start by checking the fluids underneath the hood. On the side right here, there's 2 different reservoirs. Here's the wiper fluid, and I can't really see the level on this one, but you kind of have to open the cap and look down in there. And we'll probably end up topping this one off. And on the other side, here's the radiator overflow. And you can see the fluid level is right there on it. On this side of the vehicle is the power steering reservoir. And it's at the maximum level, so this should be all set. You go around to this side. Here's the reservoir for the brake fluid. The maximum level is right here. And it's dropped down a little bit, so we're gonna pull the tires off this truck, and we're gonna check the brake pads and everything. So brake fluid's gonna go somewhere. If it drops down like this did, there's either maybe a leak or the pads are getting low. The brake fluid just doesn't, evaporate. So we're gonna check this out and see if this vehicle needs a new set of pads and rotors or something like that. So another thing you're gonna want to take a look at while you're doing your oil change is your battery. The battery on this truck is 3 years old right now. We'll probably get another year and a half maybe out of it, and we should change it so you don't get stuck. Check out the terminals. So you want to make sure that there's no corrosion like this. If you see some corrosion, the best thing to do is to get a little bit of hot water and you can pour it over the terminals and it'll get rid of this corrosion. Make sure that the caps, if you have a battery that requires maintenance, that the caps are tight against the battery, and we'll get a little water.
Water level has to be up on the battery.
Yeah,
too.
the water level has to be up on the battery too. I've got a video that shows you how to top it off. What we can do is you can get some hot water and a little bit of baking soda too, and that'll help to get rid of this acid. So we'll put a little on these terminals and we'll get rid of this battery acid.
When it's dry, we recommend that there's a red battery spray that you can spray on them that'll keep that green corrosion from coming forward. It's just in a little spray can and you can spray it on.
Yeah, you can pretty much get it at any pot store. So it's also a good time to check the air filter. The filter on this vehicle is on the driver's side. So if you want to find the tire pressure, it's on open the driver's side door, and it's on the driver's side, like kind of where the seat is, right on the door jamb. So it's right here, and it'll say front 33 psi, rear 33 psi. That's what's recommended by the manufacturer. So we're gonna go around and check all the tire pressure. So I have the truck back up in the air, and I wanted to inspect the serpentine belt real quick while we're doing some maintenance and stuff right now. So right here is on the passenger side is where the serpentine belt is, and there's a splash guard right here. You got to lift it out of the way. It's right next, to where the oil filter is. This serpentine belt looks okay. There aren't any cracks in it. If you see a bunch of cracks in here and they're like within an inch of each other, you're going to want to replace that serpentine belt so it doesn't break on you and you get stranded on the side of the road somewhere. Just going to walk around checking all the tire pressure. And it's kind of what I'm talking about. This one's at about 28 pounds of pressure. Sticks a little bit worn. But I'm going to walk around the vehicle and top them all off to make sure that the recommended PSI. We're wrapping this vehicle up, so we went through all the maintenance stuff on the vehicle under the hood, as far as fluids, checking that air filter, check out the battery condition. We showed you guys how to do an oil change on the vehicle and just some general stuff to look out for when you're doing an oil change and while you're under there kind of worming around and stuff like that. I hope you liked the video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of great stuff coming out, and if you have a question, leave a comment. I will reply back to you. Thanks for watching.